Hello and welcome to my video. Right, so here we are. We got this old frame. It's around about 1880s. Picked it up in an antique shop in France. I have no idea what the size is. And can I find my tape? Nope, can't find my tape. So I'll put the size on the screen when I do find it. But I'm just going to do something that just whatever comes to mind. Slightly different. I'm going to use a palette knife mostly for this because I've sort of discovered them again. Used them years ago, wasn't very good at it, and now suddenly I've really like using them. So that's what we're going to do. So now let's get rid of that frame and see what we can do. So I'm just going to get a little bit of oil and royal blue. And let's get that on there. Like I said, I don't know, do I know what I'm going to do? As I said, a lot of palette knife work, but that'll come on the sky later and the land. Now the only thing I've done really to prepare this, apart from the gesso and the usual stuff, is I've put a pencil line, which you won't be able to see probably, but it's there. Now the reason I've got that there is because when I'm making videos I'm standing over to the side, and one thing that's very hard to do is to get a horizontal unless you're standing right in front of the picture, and I'm not. So I thought, well, let's save the embarrassment of drawing a line that goes downhill and just put a line on there. But apart from that, there's no actual drawing, and a lot of it's such a very faint, small line. I only need it really just to get things like that reasonably horizontal. The bottom edge of that, not the top edge. It's just a little visual reference, that's all. And let's get some more blue on and just push it around. Well, let's have a bit over there. And let's bring it down to now where the line is again, but there may be something structured under there, but just in case I have I want the horizon to go right across, then let's prepare for that just in case. So we'll just have a little bit of blue there up to that line, and this blue won't be staying this colour in its entirety. It's for me to work into. Okay. Doesn't matter about that little light bit there. Okay, right, so now one of the hardest things to do, unless it's, particularly if you're painting all in one go, is to get yellow in the sky. Usually that has to go on either first and let it dry, or last when everything else is dry. So I was considering some yellow in the sky here, not sure yet. If I do, as I said, it'll probably have to go in later. Next thing I want to do is get a new brush. For this part, I'm going to put in a little bit of Payne's grey. In fact, maybe even a touch of ultramarine blue. And a bit of green, a little bit of green in the sky is not a bad thing. As long as you're careful with it, you don't go overboard. But some skies do have a little touch of green. I think some people have said that you don't get green in skies, but I beg to differ. I've seen green skies. They tend to be before a storm, and they usually mean it's the sort of storm where you need to duck or get out of the way. Anyway, so there's a sort of greyish green coming in there. And for your information, I still don't know what this sky is going to look like. Well, in fact, I don't know what the painting is going to look like. I'm just sort of making it up as I go along. And that is what I recommend people do if you are starting out. Don't get all sort of tied down and tight with your pictures. Keep them as loose as you can. What I'm putting on here at the moment, this is all going to be, if you think of it in its simplest form. Let's break it down. So I'm going to do a lot of dark and light shapes. And then for the detail, if you do get detail in a sky, I'm going to use the palette knife. And so this is really putting down a few tones and a few values. Just, I don't know why. Who knows? I've been at this for half a century now, and I'm still mystified by it. It's a fascinating process, though. You never know what you're going to get next. Right, so I think working on the idea of not knowing what I'm going to get next, I will put a bit of red ochre in the sky. Let's have a little bit there. Now, it looks, what I'm doing looks absolutely dreadful. And you may think I'm completely, I've lost it at last. The old guy's cracking up. But he's not. Not yet, anyway. I'm just sort of putting down stuff for later. Now, this is, as I said, Japanese red. You don't have to use Japanese red. Some people go into a panic and think, where am I going to get Japanese red from? Well, if you can't find it, don't worry about it. Use what you can get. Use vermilion or cadmium or whatever red you can reach. A lot of my paintings are painted using colours where the tube is within reach quickly. So, I just grab it and use it. So what I've done there, I've added a little bit of, I've used the brush that's got royal blue on it, and I just I put on the red as you saw, and I've just added a bit of white to that. And we're going to see where that takes us. This may be a seascape. I mean, I've got this horizon. I was thinking maybe a bit of land. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it could have a structure on it. I don't know yet. I've been avoiding structures, and I'll tell you why. There's this thing I did years ago. I'll put it on the screen very quickly. Okay, that's scraper board, or I think some people call it scratch board. It's the only one I've done, apart from a few in college. And this one went into the Times newspaper 30, I can't remember, so long ago, could be heading towards 40 years ago. It was an advert for a magazine I used to work for, and that was the drawing I did for, as I said, an advert that went into the Times newspaper, and they wanted it produced in this form, which is basically, painting the thing with ink and then scratching out and drawing in white. So you're drawing in the negative. And it took me a week, and it was hard going, I tell you, and I've never done it since. And that's actually part of the reason, go back, that is probably the reason why I don't do them anymore, and also why I like tonalism, because there's nothing fuzzy about that drawing. It's very tight and precise, and it was torturous to do. And I won't be doing that again. Right, so there's a sort of interesting sky starting to appear there, but I do want to get a little bit more drama in it. So now I'm going to start thinking about what I'm going to be doing on the rest of the picture, and I think I have to think about some... think about. I have to think about doing some land. So for that, I'm keeping this really simple. I'm going to do, let me think. I'm going to do Payne's grey and red ochre. I'm using up a palette here that has been going for a few days. So I've got some paint on it that's usable, some that's a little bit too crusty. So let's just have a little fiddle there. Not too long there, because after watching, I think maybe it was my last video, which is a sort of similar thing, bit of palette knife, very small painting, I realised that I keep you waiting a long time sometimes, just looking at a canvas with nothing happening, and that's not the way to get views. So let's see, what should we do here? Let's have, I think my distance is going to be there, my mid-ground here. Okay, which means let's get some structure. Whatever the land will be, it'll be coming down there and probably disappearing about that stage, but who knows, when I start using the palette knife that might change. And let's put in something here that gives a hint maybe of stuff going on. When I say stuff going on, it could be a hill, or it could be I don't know what it could be. Maybe it's a building with a structure on it, like a dock. No, I don't think I'll go there. I'm going to fight the urge and just keep it organic. So I think we'll go for some kind of hill. So there's a tone that works well with the sky at the moment. Now, if I find it looks a bit too bland and flat, I'll do this. Palette knife and royal blue. See what this does. And I'll have a little bit of bright blue sky next to the hill, keeping out of the way as usual, trying to keep out of the way. So what does that look like if I put blue right next to it and then work it up? Don't be precise. If you've been doing this for some time, I guess you will be automatically precise. Now, it's going to sound slightly crazy, but if you are new, don't be precise. Be as loose as possible. The looser you are in the early stages, the better you will be in the later stages of your painting career. I know that for a fact. I didn't believe it when I was younger, but I do now. So maybe, you know, listen to the old guy. I've got a bit of white here now, different palette knife. And I think what I'm going to do is introduce a little bit. Where am I going to introduce a little bit? I'm going to put it here. Let's just put it along there. You notice I'm doing a rotating motion. That will blur the paint, depending on how much pressure you use. See, I take the pressure off a bit, push it on a bit here. That'll go slightly more grey because I'm pushing the white into the grey that is already on the board. Where I was doing it lightly below that point, it maintained its white, fresh colour. Let's get out of the way again. Okay. As I said, you know, this is all, who knows what'll happen. I'm going to mix up a bit of pink. Now it's going to start quite a strong pink, but as I work through the painting, it'll probably become more muted. Let's have that there. I don't want to lose it too much, so I'm not going to just sort of squish that in so it disappears. I'm going to keep it so it's, you know, maintaining its strength. Now, in my last video, I was aware when I listened to it afterwards that I sounded out of breath and, you know, well, breathy. And I wasn't really. What I've been doing is wearing the microphone, which I've got here at the moment. I was fixing on my spectacles, and so it's hanging off the side of my glasses, and I think it was just too close to my mouth. I'm hoping this one won't be quite so. I don't know. It sounded like. It was like it ended up a bit like a voiceover for something from the 70s or 80s, you know. A little bit too, I don't know how to, I don't want to mention the product. There used to be a series of adverts, always made me laugh. And it was for a particular brand of cigarette, I think. And the person who was doing the voiceover was talking like that. Smoke these, they're good for you. That sort of thing. You know, they obviously weren't, because it was playing havoc with his voice, but anyway. So I don't mean to sound too exhausted. I'm not actually exhausted. But it came over a little bit, whoops. Yeah, it came over a bit, whoops. I'm hoping this one's better anyway. So let me know, you know, I like comments. Make as many comments as you want. And every now and then when I make my videos, you probably notice that I do what everyone else does. And I put up that little graphic in the corner, which may appear any second now, somewhere down there, asking people to subscribe. Please feel free to subscribe. It is free, actually. It doesn't cost you anything. And hit the little bell icon. If you do that, you'll know when I put up another video. Of course, if you want to avoid my videos, don't do any of that. And but it does help if you're a YouTuber. Right, just need to get a little bit more white. So am I delaying so that I can have a think? Not really. I'm just not prepared. Didn't have enough white on my palette. I'm trying to control my paint usage just a little bit because I am using quite a lot of paint lately. And I've got a 3-day event coming up in a few days. I think it starts on the 19th of May. 3 days. You can sign up for it if you want. It'd be nice to have some people there from YouTube. And what I'm going to do in these 3 days is one painting. It's going to be 3 hours a day, 2 hours of painting, followed by a break, and then 1 hour a critique where people can show me their paintings, show me how they're getting on, and I can give you pointers. And the first day will be painting skies, second days will be painting land, and the third day we'll be showing how to put water on the land at the bottom, obviously. And these Zoom classes usually do end up as quite a lot of fun, and it's you know, you have to be prepared for me telling you what it, you know, telling you as it is, I suppose would be a good way to say that. So it's not the sort of thing where you come on and I just be nice to you. I'm not going to be nasty to anyone, but I'll be honest with you about what you need to do. Right, so all that waffle may have got cut out, we'll see. So I've got red ochre on here, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to just mix it in, push it around, and sort of let it mix with the greys that I've got on there. I don't know where it's going yet. Well, I know it's going on the painting, but I don't know where the painting's going. This is all part of the fun, though. Who knows? Okay. Now I've got another palette knife here, and I'm just going to sort of experiment with it, and that's this thing. Square-ended. Let's just see what happens when we do this. Oh, yeah. So it's a completely different way of painting, of course, with a palette knife. It's not like a brushwork at all, really. It's It's, I don't know what it is. What is it? I'm starting to think it sort of, it's not that it's more interesting than brushwork, it's just different. You just don't quite know what you're going to get. Well, you don't know what you're going to get if you're experimenting, which is what this is all about. I just want something that's going to look good in that, that old frame, possibly with the idea of even selling it. You never know, it might sell. It doesn't matter if it doesn't though, I just enjoy doing it. Now then, right, so this, am I going to have water? Yeah, I think I will. It's going to be, will it be a sea or will it be a lake? I might do it with a brush, but for starters, I'm just going to put some blue down there. And just start pushing. Oh yeah, that's going the right way. Interesting. See what happens when we do this. Okay, now I'm going to speed up the bottom edge with a little bit of grey and brown, because it may be sea, certainly water, but I've got to start thinking about, because that is such a dark mass of land, I've got to think about what colours are going to be in the water down here, so I want to get something in there quickly. I'll be going back over the water with a palette knife. Okay, this is sort of slightly intriguing. Right. Yeah, I think this is going to go the right way. For the foreground, I may put a bit of land coming up here and then coming down across, so that I can do a few waves coming up to the shore. And I think for that I'm going to use quite a small brush. Now, what colour shall we make it? I'm thinking red ochre, Japanese red, bit of white, and then in a moment a little touch of yellow and possibly yellow ochre. So this is purely for structure at the moment, so don't take this too seriously what I'm putting on here. I'm just wondering where to put my shoreline, and I think it could go there. You won't often see me using a brush this small. Do I want to bring this up to break the horizon? I think I will. So at the moment though, just do it up there like so. Okay, right. Okay, that's temporary. In fact, it's so temporary, it may not be there in a moment. Okay, let's get, I think, some space. Did I mention I need a bigger house? Bigger studio, certainly. Right then, so back to normal palette knife, and I'm going to take some of the colour that I put here and just put a few hints over there, because I want over there to have a bit more texture, and by adding in more texture I'll make it look more fiddly, which in turn makes it look more far away and detailed. So the more little bits that are on there to break it up, the more complex it looks. Do I have I gone into I'm not making sense mode? I don't know. Could be. I was just watching on YouTube, being a Brit, watching the coronation of King Charles. Never actually met him, but I had met. I met his uncle. Spent a day or two, one day plus a social thing with his uncle, who not many people will think of it as him as his uncle, but Lord Snowdon. He was a guest editor on the magazine I used to work for, and I had to spend a day with him at his home, organising photographs. He was a well-known photographer, and we were organising photographs for to go into the magazine. And I have to say, it was very enjoyable. He was a very engaging, quite charismatic person. A lot of fun. Some of the jokes he came out with, I couldn't possibly repeat. And somewhere I have a letter that he wrote to me, thanking me for my work that I did. And during the conversation I had with him, I'll just prattle on while I'm painting. Every now and then I'll talk something about the painting as well. Yeah, I met him at his house. This is some years ago now. This is just before Princess Diana died. And I met him at his, what he called his cottage. Now, a cottage to him is a house slightly bigger than the village that I live in. And then we had to go through all these photographs, you see. Now, he was a well-known society photographer, and he was a good photographer. Not everything he did was wonderful. And one of the first things he asked me when I got there was, he says, "What do you think of my photographs?" And I said, because I didn't really care, I said, well, some of them are okay, a lot of them are okay, but there are some that, maybe we shouldn't be using. And he thanked me for that. He said, that's really refreshing to hear that. He said, because I'm the Queen's brother-in-law, people think that they have to sort of slime, that's probably the best word, tell him how wonderful he is all the time. And he was well aware that his photographs weren't wonderful all the time. And apparently nobody had ever said it. We got on very well. And I think he liked my honesty. And he was a likeable chap. He was a really nice guy, and long dead now. Okay, the sky is building up quite nicely. And I've met the Queen a few times. I met her way back in the 70s, around the time of her Silver Jubilee, because I designed a load of paraphernalia for that, boxes that contained things like plates and mugs and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, it's been interesting. Right, let's get something on there. Now, this way of painting clouds, I'm starting to like it more. I mean, I do like my normal way that I usually do, which you probably know if you've been watching my videos. But this is sort of just a change. It's just a quick change. Now, what might I? I think I might put a bit more white, a little bit more freshness just up here. Just push that into the blue. taking it off the edge, obviously. Okay, right, nice threatening bit of cloud there. Now I can use that for other things. What do I mean by that? I don't know at the moment. Well, I mean, I could put a blaze of light next to it, next to the headland here. I could leave it dark and mysterious. Don't know. I tell you what I might do though. I think I might get a bit more light down here. I'm sort of going off this at the moment. I don't know what I'll do with that. I might just turn it into a beach. Who knows? So I'm going to chop the top off it. And then I'm going to... Okay, right, I know what I'll do. I'm going to put a lot of white in there so that we get the sun. And it's so bright, it's flooding everything out. I think that might work quite well. Good. Right, now, it's very important that a line like that is horizontal. It just doesn't work if it isn't. So I'm going to just enhance that a little bit by putting in a few light streaks. They don't have to always be light streaks, they may change. Everything is changeable at the moment. A little bit of light just there, just to lift that edge. Okay, right. So I'm going to search the room for some yellow ochre now. Well, that didn't take as long as I thought it would. Yellow ochre, it's one of these really interesting colours. It can be made to look like liquid gold, because if you look at gold, just get a photograph of some gold, it's yellow ochre with white bits and dark bits. Highlights, the yellow ochre is actually the mid, and the shadow is usually a grey or a dark, very dark green, and the highlights are white. So and it depends what you put it next to. You see, I've got some yellow ochre on there. Now, if I start putting yellow ochre over at here, with a few bits that are pure yellow ochre without too much pressure on them, let's see what happens to that on the red ochre. I could probably zoom in a bit for you. Probably time I did. Let's just go in a little bit, and you'll see it starts to work with the red ochre, because it's almost a lighter version of the red ochre. So I'm going to put in some shapes. Don't know what they are. They're just things, you know, little thingy wingies. Let's have one there. A little bit of something just here. It's one of these things where you've got to lightly touch it on quickly, and then, you know, get your palette knife off it so you don't over push it, and keep it clean. You see, that's sludge now. What I want is yellow ochre. So the foreground, let's see what we're going to do in the foreground too. Let's say that this is going to be a sort of beachy type thing. Let's just shove it straight onto this pink colour. Doesn't matter where it goes into the watercolour, okay? They will work. Okay. I promise you it'll work. So I'll carry that on right down to the bottom. And it's sort of mixing well with the sort of pinky colour that I had on there. Now, I need a bit more sea before I do too much more of that. So let's just try and find that brush. I can't be the only person on the planet who does this, but there's a possibility that I'm alone. Oh, here it is, good. Right, so let's just get a bit more of that and a bit more of that. A bit more of that and a bit more of that means red ochre and a bit of white, so let's just shove that along the bottom. Do not be tidy about it. You know, the world is not that tidy. Depends on your style of painting, of course. But my style is not tidy at all. Okay, so that sort of fills that in quite well. And what I want now is this sort of grey colour. Water's a funny thing because, you know, depending on what's in the water, but usually it's a reflection of the sky, or there could be certain minerals in the water, but it's generally a sky thing. So there we are, there's a sort of bit of blue, just for the heck of it. Keep it simple, blue, blue, blue. Blue and browny sludge, it'll turn into a beach in a moment. There we go, nice little bit of blurring where they meet. Because you know when water laps onto sand, kicks up the sand, and before you know it, the sea becomes the colour of the sand. That's working, good. Little hard bit there, just for a little bit of definition, but down here, that moves that back a bit, you see. But below that, that's all right at our feet. And let's hope we've got the right shoes on. Okay. Okay, so over here, I've got these white bits. I'm just gonna sort of blur that and streak it up a bit because I want to. I mean, it's sort of horizontal, but it can be broken. You know, it doesn't have to be a dead straight line, but it must be pretty well horizontal for it to work properly. Good, it's properly working. Now, water in the foreground. Now, I'm not going to do crashing waves because I just don't want to paint them. And to be absolutely honest with you, I'm not very good at it. So, but what I'm going to do is this sort of wave. And it's really quick to do. And it's actually quite fun because you don't quite know how it'll come out, but it generally does come out looking like water. So there's a little bit of water in the foreground. That's okay, good. I think to make it even easier for you, I'm going to point the camera down a bit more. Makes it easier for me too. Okay, there's the bottom of my easel. Let's refocus that. Or is it? That's sort of in focus. Okay, now the reason I've done that is because I want to do a little bit of work here. Because of the angle of this thing, you know, set back, I can lift the painting up, put it on the top. Try not to, because it's precarious. And you'll understand that if you watch my last video. My painting, which is in the other room I think at the moment, fell off. It didn't just fall off once, you only see it fall off once in the video. It fell off 3 times, I think. And, you know, it doesn't put out a good impression really, does it? Okay, so there we go. There's a nice bit of wet water down there. And the trick, one of the things, well, not trick, this is the trick. What I'm doing is the trick to water. What I want to say is that to get movement and motion, it's the same way with clouds. Just, you know, it needs to have an urgency about it and a spontaneity. And I may come back to it later. Now, I've got to think about, will there be a shadow? Sometimes you get a shadow on the sea, sometimes you don't. Depends where the sun is. Shadow, I mean reflection. Maybe there will, it depends. Sea or river, I don't know. I'm just going to sort of carry on, see what happens. Okay, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? Let's have a little bit of that. Right, it's turning blue, wipe it off. Okay, now it's clean. I can go back to the white and I can still work on it, move it a bit without losing it. I don't mind if I lose a little bit because I'm going to paint it into the land and then I'll pull the land back over it. Getting through a lot of paper today. Right, so back to the clouds. So what I've done, I put this lighter cloud here, which is absolutely not finished. And I pushed it into the land. In a minute, I'll pull the land. When I'm happy with that, I'll pull the land back over the sky. So here, let's see what we're going to do. We're going to push that up, like so. And I think we're going to get a bit more pink. Let's have, let me think about the pink. Right, let's have a nice belt of it there. I think sky is actually, it's an abstract thing. It's because you're not painting the sky exactly as it is. I mean, this is a painting of a sky from my mind. So it's, I'm not copying something. I'm reproducing something vaguely, I have in my memory of what a cloud could look like. But it's compositional, I mustn't do anything in there that look like pigs, sheep, dogs, cats, dragons, hippopotamus, that sort of stuff. But it's got to have a flow about it. It's got to have a nice, easy on the eye, abstract cloud effect. How's that sound? Bit of a hole there, compositionally that's going to look like a dark spot in the painting, so we'll avoid that. Easily done. Clean knife. Pick up a bit of the local colour next to it and just squidge it. There we go. Now, I'll be back on the land in a minute. I'm not finished with this cloud yet. And in fact, I'm thinking of, what am I thinking of? What occurred to me that could be good is a bright area. Right on the horizon. I like bright horizons. Where the horizon and the sea are so close in colour, it's quite hard to see exactly where the horizon is. I mean, you get a feeling for where it is in the painting, obviously, but I don't want it to be set in stone. I quite like a slightly ambiguous effect, which appears to be what's happening. Maybe there's a mist coming down over the sea. That's quite nice. Now, what I'm not liking is that. And I think that the only way I'm going to get around that is to rebuild the land. So I've got Payne's grey and red ochre, quite dark because it'll change when it hits this because of the white that is on there. So let's just push something into the hill like so. Okay. Still no idea what's quite going on there. I mean, I could change it a little bit more, but we'll see. Sorry, mumbling away to myself here. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is bring the land up here, right into the cloud, and then back down again. Okay. Right. And now, clean knife, a sliver of white, just to re-establish what's going on over there. That line is sort of interesting, I suppose. Why not? Yep, that's a few waves hitting the beach there. You see how you make it up as you go along? So when I'm long gone and people look at this, they'll say, amazing how he painted that little bit of beach over there. When all I painted really is just a few white lines. Okay, a little bit of beachery. Now, foreground. What do I want to do on that foreground? I think I need, first of all, another brush. Let's get some, okay, even though it's a beach, you see, it can have a bit of green in it. And let's see what we can do here, get a bit of structure into the land. Let's have, quite sure what we're going to have. Let's just put something on there until it looks like we have something. Because green things do grow on beaches occasionally. Depending on your beach, isn't it? Anyway, this is one of those beaches that's got a little bit of green stuff on it. Okay, not overdoing it. Oh, right, okay. I've done what I dread doing. I've painted and not shown you. So let's get my brain back into gear. All I did was just put this slight green tone on here. So now I'm going to try and make it interesting, but at least you get to see this bit. Okay, so I've just spotted something I don't like. I've got this bluey grey brush, and I'm just going to put a little bit of streakery in there, just to lift that a little bit. That's good. Now, whatever's going on there could be the hint of a bit of a reflection. I don't mind, because there is this thing with seawater that sometimes it doesn't reflect the land because it's so choppy. So let's assume this is a little bit choppy. It's not awfully choppy. I've seen choppier, but it's choppy enough. Right, so there's a little hint of water and a few waves. So now I'm going to get my palette knife again and see what I can do in the foreground with what is allegedly a sandy substance. But I want some little bright spots in the green, so let's just push a few lumps of paint in there. Don't forget, you know, what makes detail? Texture. Okay, a touch more. I think we'll have a little bit there that's slightly clean. In other words, it hasn't got any brown or green in it. It just takes a, excuse all these crashing sounds, I have a gazillion paintings leaning against my desk, which I've got to organise. They need categorising, because there are some that are demos, some that belong to students. One or two complete failures. No, I'm kidding, there aren't any. Okay, so I think I've got something happening on the beach there. Something slightly interesting. So, minuscule amount of Payne's grey. Let's have a little bit just here and there, just to sort of, you know, add contrast and structure. You've got to have contrast. Painting without contrast is a very boring painting. It also brings that ahead of this. This is dark, but that there grabs you. It's something there, it won't be quite like that, but it'll grab you. And let's see if I can grab you a bit more. Let's just take that up there a bit. Yeah, now, what are we doing? I haven't said this for a while, so if you are still here, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and also the thumbs up if you like it. It does something to the algorithm and causes people to... No, it causes the algorithm to promote my videos, I think. It obviously sends a message. So if you do that, I'll be eternally grateful. Okay, let's just have a... The reason I'm sort of putting paint on and walking away and then walking back across the room is, you know, I'm looking in my camera viewfinder because I see a really small image in there, and I like the way... Oh, that's okay. I like the way it simplifies the image. Okay, right. So I think a little bit more in the foreground with the white. I might push a little bit into the land and then put the land back over it. Do I need to? Probably not. I think I might leave that. But I will... What will I do? Just a few little of them. This is going to be one of those paintings where I will let it dry and then do a little bit of glazing on it at a slightly later date. So that's looking, from my point of view here, okay. So I'm going to go back to the sky. Right, so the sky is nowhere near finished, and I think what I'm going to do, because I didn't do it in my last video, and a few people noticed that I hadn't done it, and that is a blur, a quick blur, and then more work with the palette knife on top of that. So there are some lumps in the paint, which is okay, I quite like them actually, but I'm just going to just smooth the sky a little bit and then start reapplying a bit more with the palette knife. So this is just to take the top off a few bits that are a little bit too lumpy for my liking. Great big hair up there. Gotcha. Okay. Also, it makes glazing easier when I get round to it, Okay, that looks pretty cool. A bit more of a wipe on the brush. It's a very simple composition, this, because it's one of those that, you know, it leads you over there and it leads you up there. It's quite easy, really. Composition is an interesting subject. I've got a few videos on composition, so if you want to just rummage through my videos, you'll find something. In fact, I probably mention composition in pretty well all of my paintings, I think. It's quite an important thing. You know, you've got to keep your eye on where you're leading the viewer. Okay, it's looking like I got the odd hair on there that I don't want. Okay, right. Now then, blurring brush, Stuart. Remember where you put it. Okay, so back to the sky with a palette knife. I've got various palette knives. I've said this before, so I'll mention it again. When people say, what palette knife do you use, what number is it? Doesn't mean a thing, depends on the make. What have I got here? I've got a couple with numbers on. That's a 6, that's a number 6. Very, very long blade. This is also a number 6. Doesn't mean a thing, different make. So yeah, don't worry about the number, just go by what you think it'll do and what fits in your hand the best. I'm thinking, which is unusual for me sometimes, that I need to do something like this. And as you can see, no blending. The way I'm getting the you know, I've got the highlight white and then I've got the tone, it's just pressure. Okay, so it's one of the few times in life you need a bit of pressure. Turn the blade around. That'll give you nice, interesting, random shapes. Random is good. Once you've got your basic shape that you like, you know, that is pleasing, then you could blur it if you want, or you could just wipe the palette knife and then work into it a bit more. So I like the top, but what I'm going to do is move it down like that so that it blends away into whatever the colour is below it. Put a nice big crease in the sky there, do you see that? Yep, that's just a temporary UFO. Let's just squish that. There we go. Now then, let's see. Still want that to come down a bit more. And I'm going to do another blur on it in a minute as well. And then after the final blur, which will come quite close to the land, I'll build the land up a little bit more there, just to make it slightly more interesting. It may be interesting already, but you know. What else should we talk about? Oh yeah, I got to use the modern speak. I've got a bit of merch now. You can get mugs, key fobs, aprons, of which I'm wearing one now. This is I don't know whether you'll see it, but that's my apron there. Well, hang on. I have to zoom back. No, I'll tell you what. I'll put a picture on the screen. It's much better than looking at me. And it's a very well made apron, and it's made in the US. seriously, I'm not just saying it because I want to sell them, but it is really, I was surprised. It's a very, very good quality apron. It's good thick material, and it's got 2 pockets. It's got a pocket either side. And it's got some printing on it, one of my paintings. So yeah, if you want one, I'll put a link down below, so you could go and look for that if you want. Ooh, that's interesting. Let me look at that from a distance. Yeah, good. Okay, so what I did, I dragged a little bit of the sky down onto the hill. Quite like that. That's sort of slightly intriguing. Intrigued. Now, just going to work on the top edge of it a bit because there's a few hard lines there that I'm not awfully keen on. So I'm going to just sort of vague it up a bit. Okay. See, what I'm trying to do is give it a bit of form. I don't want flat. I always like a little bit of texture going on in things like this. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some yellow ochre along the top of that. Like so. Which will give it even more form. And in fact, before I go on, I'm just going to get, I remember where my blurring brush is, that's good. But what I want to do is just hit the top edge of that with a brush. I've got this very strong brown here, but what I want to do is just pull that down a bit. Like so. Good. Now, and then this is where everything can go wrong, okay? And then I'm just going to put the brush on there and just quickly drag it that way. Right, that's exactly what I wanted. So now I'm going to go back to the palette knife. And some of these greys, it's like the colours are sort of Payne's grey, red ochre, bit of white, bit of royal blue. And I just want to use that to get a little bit of variation, you know. I like there to be many little colours going on. Let's do something there like so as well. That could be interesting, couldn't it? Hope my mumbling is picking up on the microphone because that was not a bad mumble. Okay, now, there we go. Right. Good. Now, that's giving an extra dimension to that, whatever's going on over there anyway. There's a little bit of, I don't know, watery there. The question I have to ask people, it'd be interesting to know your answers, but when I make these videos, you see, sometimes I'm anguished, don't know what to say. Then I start painting and I start sort of mumbling and rambling away. And sometimes it's a real surprise to me what comes out. I mean, there's been a few times when I've just had to edit it out because it's total rubbish. But, you know, it sort of... It is what's going on in my head. Right, I'm starting to like that now. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more depth down the bottom here. And there's no real plan, it's just like, you know, let's just put stuff on there and see what happens. There we are. sort of quite nice, isn't it? Let's just adjust you a bit. Yep, there we are. So this is not, I suppose, a lesson on how to paint rocks, because this is rocks and boulders is a different thing. This is distant, textured hill stuff. There's nothing actually there. It's just little bits of colour just thrown on it. Well, that could be nice, couldn't it? A little bit of light just there. A little bit more over there as well. I don't know what that is, but hey, you never know, it might be a distant building. I haven't painted a building for a long time. So don't hold your breath, it may not happen again. Now, what else should we do? Let's have something up there. You see, it's just texture. Am I happy with the clouds? Should I put more water along that edge? I think I should, actually. And then I'm almost done. So I'll start rambling on about lessons. Okay, I do lessons on Zoom. You can come here and learn from me as well if you want, and if you can afford it. Obviously, it's a big commitment to leave a country and go to another country just to spend 5 days with some crazy old Brit painting landscapes. But these people exist. In fact, before all that COVID stuff, I had a year. Whoops, that's okay. I had a year where I was teaching someone every week pretty well. I think I had about 6 weeks where I wasn't teaching. All the other weeks, there was like continual flow of people coming through here, and they all got out again. They all escaped safely, I might add, and it was really good fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Quite tiring, and it's just the way it is. It is tiring, but there's different types of tired. Okay, that's nice. Yes. So anyway, I'm doing a few classes. I can't do quite as many as I used to, but because of my health. But that's quite nice. Do I like that? But I am accepting some anyway. What else? Yeah, Zoom classes. I do 2 a month. And I'll put a link below where you can go and make a decision as to whether you want to come here. What else? What else? I'm sure there's other stuff. It's quite a nice area. I have a dash cam in my car, and I may insert a few views of what it's like in the area, and insert them in a corner of the video somewhere, maybe up here, or maybe I'll just fill the screen. I know the quality's not absolutely wonderful, but give you an idea what it's like. Or you can just go on Google, type in Brossac, Brossac. That'll show you where the village is. It's in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, which sounds like something out of Arthur in the Round Table. It's a nice area, not too far from the sea. I wish it was closer, because I sort of miss the ocean. But yeah, it's not bad. There's a few things to do in the area. You can get to Bordeaux quite easily from here. Don't think I like that dark bit in there. Maybe I shouldn't worry about it. Let's see what we can do to fix it. So let's try a palette knife. Let's use the other hand again. Yeah, Bordeaux's about an hour away. There's also Angoulême. If you find Brossac on a map and then look around, you'll find a village called a city called Angoulême, which is quite big, and it's got some interesting things to do there, because a ton of restaurants, museums, that sort of stuff. What else? Of course, if I move from this place, if I do move from here, and it may be on the cards, the place that I would go probably would be the Pyrenees, which is 5 hours south from here, and the Pyrenees are amazing. Okay, still not quite sure in there, but I might leave it for now and go back to it at a later date. But I think that may be it. I have waffled enough. I think I will come back to this one. I do say that occasionally, and then I forget. So if ever I do forget, just give me a nudge. Just put a comment and say, where's part 2? And I do read all comments, so please, leave comments. Be polite, obviously. Polite. Just going to put a bit more up there. I think you can see that. Let's make sure you can. Yeah, leave comments. I find I read every comment. Sometimes I just don't get a chance to answer. And if I don't answer, it's nothing personal. It's just there's other stuff I have to do as well, and a lot of it is down to my energy levels. Okay, right, I think I'm going to stop there. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learnt something. And I will see you in the next video. So bye for now.